Today's sermon is from the Fundamentals of Unicult. It's on suffering. The standard experience on earth is suffering. Suffering has been normalized as something that is constant and enduring. This understanding of suffering only perpetuates suffering and does nothing for the enlightenment of anyone. And here we have a bolded sentence that says, inevitable hardship exists to show us that suffering is a choice. And this is one of those things that I personally came up with and then was like, can I say that suffering is a choice? And it's something that I really dug to understand from that perspective. And today we're going to be talking not just about the idea of suffering as a choice, but the purpose of suffering and the purpose of pain. And we're also going to be talking about the power of forgiveness. And these things are all intertwined. So when you suffer, basically in Unicult, we distinguish two different aspects of pain. We distinguish the pain of something happening to you, valid pain, that is when something terrible happens to you, if you lose something that you care about, or you get put into a position that's bad, or you get hurt, or anything like that, then your pain is valid. There's nothing wrong with experiencing pain. Obviously, life is very painful sometimes. But then we distinguish the difference between that initial pain and also suffering. Suffering is the idea of prolonged pain. Suffering is the idea of holding on to that pain. And when I had depression, I held on to my pain, and it created a lot of suffering. It created depression in me. And the reason why it did is because I didn't have a potential direction to go. I followed my cynicism on the Unicult path to joy. We start out with cynicism, and that gets transferred into hopefulness. But I didn't have that knowledge then. So I just had the cynicism. And when you follow cynicism to its final conclusion, everything sucks, everything is broken, everything is, designed to be painful, then you end up in a position where you are completely disempowered and you're just cycling on this cyclical, cynical, suffering spiral. Say it 3 times fast. Cyclical, cynical, suffering spiral. So that spiral will create suffering because you're just sitting there and you don't know which direction to take your energy in. And unfortunately, when we follow a negative path, when we follow that downward spiral, it brings us to the bottom, and then there's nothing to do at the bottom except hurt, except prolong our suffering. In Unicult, we say that suffering is a choice, and it's up to us to wrangle our energy, to wrangle our thoughts, to take responsibility for our consciousness, and to start to follow a hopeful spiral upward. And it doesn't mean that the things that happened to you weren't bad. It doesn't mean that you didn't have a right to feel pain in the first place. It just means that eventually that pain has given its purpose, and you're ready to move beyond it. The purpose of pain in a larger context is to give us all empathy for other people. When you trip, like let's say you see someone and they trip and they fall and you laugh, you say, haha, that's so funny. And then you trip and you fall and you hurt your knee and you get embarrassed and you hurt. Then you say, oh, maybe I shouldn't laugh next time I see someone trip. Maybe there was nothing I could have done to prevent myself from tripping, and it was embarrassing and it hurt. So now I have empathy when I see someone trip and fall, and I might go over and I might help them instead of laughing at them. Pain helps us, gives us a context for understanding other people's potential situations, and gives us an ability to tune into unconditional love and awareness. Pain is okay. It also helps us know where, if you put your hand in a fire, it's going to burn all your skin off. So it's good to be having that pain to realign yourself. In Unicult, we often compare pain to the sidelines of Mario Kart. If you go off the track, you get into a spiral of pain, and that is there to remind you that you're not meant to be there. You're not meant to simply spiral out on the sidelines of Mario Kart. That's an indicator to go back on the path of joy, to get back on the path where you can go freely forward into your life's purpose and your life's work. Love that Mario Kart situation. So empathy is something that we get from pain. Knowledge is something that we get from pain. And there's nothing wrong with having a response of pain in a situation. If you get hurt and something bad happens, it's okay to feel mad and hurt and upset. But eventually, you learn all the lessons that that pain can possibly teach you. And at that point, you're done with it. At that point, you're ready to move beyond it. This can't be rushed. This can't be, this isn't, I can't say, oh, it's only 3 days and then you're done. No, it might be years that you have to stay in this pain. But there's this understanding, I was just thinking about this recently with someone, and it's the idea of this victimhood mentality. And it's the idea of associating yourself to your wound. A lot of times, since we live on Earth and there are so many painful experiences and we all have trauma, sometimes we associate our entire personalities, our entire self-worth, our entire selves to the bad things that happen to us. And this is a confusing area because the bad things that happen to us definitely affect us and they definitely shape us. But we have the potential to actually show our true character through how we respond to that pain. Instead of just, if someone hurts you, instead of just saying, well, that person hurt me, and recycling and reliving and reliving and reliving that pain, your true character, the way that it truly reflects who you are, is about how you respond to it and how you can possibly transform that pain into love. And love is really hard to get to if you're in a place of pain, if someone specifically hurt you, but that is the goal. When we talk about love and we talk about forgiveness when someone hurts us, we are actually talking about a huge amount of transmutational energy. And we're also talking about something that is going to radically benefit your life. If someone hurts you and you hold on to a grudge, who is that hurting? We have to look from a higher perspective. We have to look from an energetic perspective, and we have to see the world through the eyes of pure energy. If we can do that, then we can understand these things much easier. If somebody says, you're dumb, and then you sit there and you're like, oh, that hurt. I'm so mad at that person. And they just go about their life. Energetically, what do you see? You see that if you're mad and you're holding a grudge, you're actually creating and generating a ton of negative energy. They might have triggered that in you, but it's your responsibility to figure out how to transmute that energy because they have no, eventually you have to realize other people don't have power over your own emotions. People can affect you, people can trigger you, but eventually it's up to you to show your character, to raise your vibration into one of unconditional love. And that's through forgiveness. So when you forgive people, it helps you. It doesn't even matter if it helps them, because when you hold a grudge, that energy is only affecting you. That energy is poisoning your energy. That energy is cycling in your consciousness, in your body, and not theirs. They might feel it a little bit, but it has to come from your own body, your own soul. So when you are holding a grudge with someone and you're mad at them and you're angry at them, it's mostly hurting you. And this is just practical brass tack situation. This is just how it's working. Does this mean that you need to let abusers back into your life? Does this mean that you need to continue to get hurt by someone? No, not at all. This means that you need to have unconditional love first and foremost for yourself. This means protecting yourself, and this means setting boundaries. And when you are able to set boundaries, when you are able to feel safe in your own security, only then can you start to practice this radical acceptance and practice this radical forgiveness for other people. You don't even need to tell them that you're forgiving them. It doesn't need to be an ego-based thing, but you need to practice forgiveness in yourself because it will transmute your negative energy and it will help you alleviate your suffering. So we say that suffering is a choice. We say that we are here to experience pain, to build our knowledge and to build our empathy. And then from that point, once we learn everything we need to learn from the pain, it's up to us to flex our muscles and transmute that energy through the power of forgiveness into radical love. And that will transform your entire psyche, your entire consciousness. It will literally raise the vibration of your energy. You will feel lighter. You will feel better. You won't be carrying that weight. These are words we all understand because it's that heavy to be upset with someone. So in fundamentals, we have a few starting phrases to let go of suffering. So I'm going to ask you to think about someone who's hurt you, either recently or someone who really hurt you in the past. And think about these phrases, and I encourage you to say them out loud and just see how it feels. You might have a strong repulsion to it because you're really holding on to your pain, and that's okay. This is all about learning about your consciousness. This is about learning about your response to these situations, and it's about transmuting your energy. It's just about understanding your own consciousness. So try this. I forgive myself and everyone who has ever hurt me. And you might feel that go through into your stomach. You might feel it go through to your feet. You might feel it make you dizzy. Like, it might be a very powerful thing to say. I forgive myself and everyone who has ever hurt me. You can type it in the chat box too if you want. I am growing each day into the highest version of myself. Forgiveness isn't just about other people. It's about ourselves too. The beings around me love and care for me. I am filled with love and kindness. I deserve to be happy. There's a few other ones here, but those are like the ones I wanted to read mostly. So it's important to practice these affirmations and just see where you're at with them. See how it makes you feel. We can manipulate our energy toward positivity anytime we want, says Princess Marissa. I think that's probably true. And Spencer says, I can't say I truly forgive everyone. There's just one person left. And that just might be because you don't have strong enough boundaries too. So if you don't feel like you're safe from situations completely, it might be very hard to forgive people because your pain is working as a protector. It's like putting your hand in fire. And your pain is like, no, I'm not going to go near that fire. I'm not going to put my hand in that fire again. That's okay. That means you need to set boundaries. So it's really a two-step process of, well, it's more than 2 steps, but let's just make it easy. Setting boundaries and then practicing that forgiveness. And that forgiveness can take years. I practiced, for me, I had a violent rape that happened to me in college. And it was very painful. It was socially painful. It was legally painful. It was painful because of my relationship to the person who did it to me. And for years, it was very hard to navigate the ability to forgive that person, especially because they didn't want to talk about it. I really wanted to resolve it, and they didn't want to talk about it. And so I worked really hard whenever it would come up in my consciousness to practice sending them love and sending them forgiveness and seeing the situation from the highest perspective. It took years and years and years. And then eventually I ended up writing a piece on Medium, and they saw it. And they reached out to me, and they actually came to Los Angeles, and we had a conversation, and we talked about what had happened 10 years prior, and we were able to understand one another. And it was a huge radical shift in my life, and I was very lucky to have that person be as accountable and as open as they were. And obviously they were lucky to have me be as accountable and open as I was too. And so we came to it from a very mature place. You know, we were very young when it happened, and we were able to talk about it. And only because I had done so much work over those 10 years of practicing forgiveness for this person was I able to have that conversation in such a mature way. But I just want to say this story because it's possible. And it radically changed my life. It made my soul feel lighter. And I think it probably did the same for him. Assaults are hard to forgive. Forgiveness is hard. What about self-forgiveness? You wish you could be happy. You can be happy. You need to go so much further with these affirmations. You're not ready yet. And I think you guys are all saying the same things. This is hard. This is hard, and I'm not ready for this. And I think that that's an amazing and important thing to recognize. If you can see the potential goal of practicing forgiveness for yourself, first and foremost, I think that a lot of times when we're mad at ourselves, we're taking on other people's words, we're taking on other people's expectations of who we should be. I think forgiving the self starts with the fact that you know that you did your best at every moment. So if you're working on self-forgiveness, start there. I know that I was doing my best in every moment. And if you hurt somebody else and you know that you were doing something wrong, then acknowledge that, make space for their pain if you can, make space for them and say, how can I repair this for you? But at the same time, forgive yourself because you were always acting in a way that you thought was the best. And from that place, forgiveness of others is much easier. Because if you look at your own actions and you say, I know I hurt other people in the past, and I know that I was doing my best. I just wasn't there yet. I wasn't healed. I wasn't aware. I wasn't responsible. I wasn't mature. Whatever your reasoning is for having hurt people, you can say, well, I just wasn't there yet. And I know now I would have acted different. So if you know now that you would have acted differently, if you know now that you did your best then, that's the starting place for forgiving yourself. And when you start to do that and you start to look at all these other people in your life who have caused you pain, and you start to try to get empathy for them through the understanding that they also were doing their best, maybe they weren't healed, maybe they weren't mature enough, maybe they weren't ready, then you can start to empathize and you can start to see the bigger picture from this purely energetic reality of learning and of growth. And it doesn't mean you need to be close to them. It doesn't mean you need to have anything to do with them. But the work that you do in this space will radically transform your own life. And that's why it's really important to practice this. It's not about them. It's really not. It's really about your own consciousness and the weight that you are carrying in your anger, in your pain, in your suffering, and in your hatred. Spencer, that looks like a very dramatic story. So suffering comes from not having anywhere else to go. You feel like you need to stay in suffering because you feel like it's serving you. It's like an addiction. It's just like an addiction like anything else. If you are in a space of suffering, you're in a space of prolonged pain, and you know you already learned your lessons of pain and you're ready to leave that suffering, the next step is hopefulness. And from that state of hopefulness, you can say, maybe your affirmations are, I believe I will one day be able to forgive those who have hurt me. And even that's a good place to start. Because if you can be hopeful toward your healing, if you can be hopeful for this understanding that eventually you will be able to ascend all of this pain and you will be able to rise into a state of love for yourself and for others, then you're already bringing in a utopian paradise because you're shifting your energy from that downward spiral of cycling, the cynical, cyclical, suffering spiral, and you're spinning it back around into a more positive one. And hopefulness is that key. If you're down at the bottom, you have nowhere left to go, and you're just cycling, hopefulness is the next step. I believe I will one day be happy. I believe I will one day be fulfilled. I believe one day I'll have only supportive people around me. If you can believe those things, they are possible, you will start to reverse that spiral into the higher realms. I never thought forgiveness was possible, but I see now that it's just difficult, especially when your suffering seems unfair. But you must forgive and move on. And it's up to you to build a paradigm around your suffering, around your pain, I mean. So for me, I personally feel I'm at a place where I can confidently say, I'm a starseed. Everything bad that happened to me helped me grow into the person that I'm meant to be. And I'm here to offer my wisdom that I've gotten from all of my traumatic experiences. And my wisdom hasn't come from my traumatic experiences. My wisdom has come from overcoming my traumatic experiences. So I think that all these traumatic experiences were just opportunities for me to learn and to grow and to really rise up and to flex those muscles of love and see the higher reality. If you don't want to believe that, you don't have to. That's my personal paradigm to help me enjoy my life. Because if I didn't believe that, I would be a victim and I would just remain a victim. And my energy would be very bad and I would be the one who would have to deal with that. It would be cycling in my own consciousness in my own body. dreams are a great place to start forgiveness. When I started forgiving my rapist, it was all in dreams. I was having good dreams of him, and I thought, well, that makes it a lot easier because I could see him in a higher light. If you want to forgive somebody too, I'll give you one more tip, is to look at them and try to see their higher self. Try to see their higher self. Try to see who they really are. Try to see their heart. And if you can see their heart and you can see that they are just confused and trapped in this ego-based three-dimensional time-space reality, then it can be much easier to connect with that aspect of themselves which you can feel deserves forgiveness. You can maybe see their child self or their higher self. Those things can really help you transform your understanding of another person. And it's very rare that people do things to try to hurt us. And that's a huge lesson that I had to learn. I literally thought everyone was walking around trying to hurt me constantly. And that's a BPD thing, that's a narcissism thing, but it's also something that we all believe to a certain degree. If you can understand, most people aren't evil, cruel people walking around trying to hurt other people like psychopaths. They're actually just confused. They're actually just in pain themselves. They're actually just not that mature. They actually just don't know how to express what they need or what they want in a way that's healthy or conducive. So a lot of times the things that have happened to you weren't because people were trying to hurt you. It's because they were hurting themselves too. So it's a lot of compassion you have to drum up. It's a lot of love, and it's a lot of forgiveness. Okay, thank you for joining me for Cam Church. See you next Sunday. Check out my new video that's on cancel culture. And also, we will be having Uni Brunch. I will get the link right now for Uni Brunch. And if you want to join Uni Brunch, anyone can join. You don't have to be an official member. You can talk to other Unicult members, and you can talk to whoever is there. And it can be really fun. So let me pull that up for you. And I'll link it here, and I'll link it in the comments here, so wait around for that. And then I will also link it in the video description as soon as it launches. It's launching. It's a Zoom meeting that's launching. Invite. Here it is. So please join Uni Brunch if you want to chat with other members. We need to just make one Uni Brunch thing here. Okay, it's in the video description. I know that YouTube sometimes gives a small delay for when that's uploaded.